What do you do when the people you trusted most destroy you? Not just betray you, erase you. They don't explain. They don't look back. They just walk out, and you're left staring at the ruins of everything you built. Have you ever lived through that? Because if you have, I want to hear it. Drop a comment below. What moment made you realize you were on your own? No support, no applause. Just you and the silence. That's where Victor Hale's story begins. At 49, after 15 years building a financial firm, he was blindsided by the one man he called brother. One cold email, one lawyer's signature. And just like that, he was out. No office, no name, no one calling back. But Victor didn't get loud. He got quiet. And the silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. 3 years, no interviews, no explanations. People thought he broke, but they didn't know. He was sharpening. And when he came back, he didn't post quotes. He didn't beg for closure. He closed deals. Because the best revenge isn't rage, it's resurrection. And this is how you do it. The truth about pain and power. Most people think pain is the problem, but it's not. Pain is a messenger, a mirror, a trigger. The problem is how you respond. When Victor Hale was betrayed, he had every reason to collapse, to scream, to seek revenge, to drown himself in distractions. Most men would have, and who could blame them? We live in a world that teaches us to react instantly, clap back, prove them wrong, post about your pain. But Victor didn't do any of that, because here's the truth. Pain doesn't destroy people. Ego does. Reactivity does. The need to be understood does. Stoic wisdom teaches one thing above all. You don't control what happens. You control how you respond. And that's the fork in the road. When the betrayal hits, when the people you love turn into ghosts, when your reputation is dragged through the mud, you can spend your energy explaining. Or you can build. Victor chose the second path, not because it was easy, but because it was the only one that wouldn't leave him a shell of a man. So he disappeared. He let them talk. He let them gloat. And while they whispered, he rebuilt, brick by silent brick. And here's what most men never realize until it's too late. Every minute you spend reacting to pain is a minute you give away power, your time, your clarity, your fire. Pain isn't asking you to lash out. It's asking you to listen, to cut the noise, to ask, who am I without applause? Who am I when everything I built is gone? And who do I choose to become next? Because no matter what they took, your business, your marriage, your dignity, they didn't take your mind, they didn't take your choice, and they damn sure didn't take your future. That is where power begins. Not when you prove them wrong, but when you stop needing to. Stoic Principle 1. Pain is your teacher. Most people run from pain. They numb it, fight it, deny it, post quotes to hide it. But the truth is, pain doesn't leave until it teaches. And that's the first real principle of Stoic strength. You don't become powerful in spite of pain. You become powerful through it. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, fire feeds on obstacles. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Victor Hale understood this the hard way. The first few months after his betrayal were brutal. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was deafening. Every morning, he woke up to emptiness. No meetings, no partners, no reputation to lean on. But instead of avoiding that darkness, Victor sat in it. He didn't run from it. He invited it in. He journaled. He meditated. He wrote out every mistake, every blind spot he ignored, every instinct he dismissed for the sake of loyalty. Not to blame himself, but to see clearly. Because that's what pain is. It's a harsh teacher, but it's honest. It doesn't flatter your ego. It doesn't play nice. And as Epictetus said, difficulties show a man to himself. You don't meet your true self when everything's going right. You meet him when the storm hits, when the phone stops ringing, when you stare into the mirror and don't recognize the man looking back. And it's in that moment, right there, that you have two choices. You can sink, or you can sharpen. Most men sink. They chase validation. They jump into new distractions. They try to silence the pain with noise. Women. Status. But the few, the rare few, they sharpen. They let the pain burn through the weakness, through the need for approval, through the version of themselves that was still playing small. And that's what Victor did. In silence, in solitude, he studied, he trained. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because that's what Stoicism teaches. Pain isn't your enemy. It's your training ground. You don't avoid it. You use it. Like iron meeting fire, like coal becoming diamond. You let it shape you, strip away what's soft, and leave behind what's unbreakable. In Victor's case, pain revealed the flaws in his mindset. He was too trusting, too focused on being liked, too tied to an image that others could take away in an instant. And so, he built a new foundation. Not on validation, not on image, but on clarity, on internal strength, on the kind of discipline no betrayal could destroy. Because when pain teaches you, you no longer fear it, you respect it, you welcome it. Why? Because now you know, every painful chapter you survive becomes armor. Every scar becomes a map. Every moment that didn't kill you built the version of you that doesn't beg, doesn't break, doesn't flinch. So if you're hurting right now, good. That means the lesson is here. The test is happening. You're not cursed. You're being calibrated. Pain is not the end of the story. It's the mentor that prepares you for the next level. But only if you listen. Only if you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what am I being trained to become? A true leader doesn't react to pain. He rebuilds through it. When others panic, he pauses. When the ground shakes, he strengthens the foundation. Pain doesn't derail a stoic leader. It reveals the parts of him that needed upgrading. And that's why the strongest leadership is forged, not in comfort, but in crisis. Stoic Principle 2: Silence is a weapon. No one tells you what silence really feels like. They say it's powerful. They say it's wise. They say it's strength. But they don't tell you the part that breaks you first. They don't tell you about the nights when you're wide awake, replaying everything, what you could have said, should have said, the moments you stayed loyal while they plotted behind your back. They don't tell you that silence feels like weakness. Until one day, it doesn't. Until one day, it becomes the sharpest weapon in your arsenal. That's what Victor Hale discovered. In the weeks after losing everything, his first instinct, like any man's, was to respond, to defend himself, to tell the world the truth, to scream, "They lied. I was loyal. I didn't deserve this." But the louder his thoughts became, the more he realized something. Noise doesn't heal. It only echoes pain. So instead of speaking, Victor vanished. Not out of defeat, but out of discipline. While they posted, he unplugged. While they whispered, he watched. While they curated narratives, he crafted his silence like armor. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. Victor stopped explaining. Stopped reacting. Stopped giving free access to his emotions. Because silence, real silence, is not absence. It's strategy. It's the Stoics' battlefield, where no one hears the war except the man fighting it inside. He deleted every app, refused every call that wasn't essential, went days without responding, not out of arrogance, but because clarity requires stillness. In that stillness, he didn't fall apart. He recalibrated, and that's when silence began to shift, from pain to precision, from isolation to focus. It became his boundary, his discipline, his filter against people who only came for noise. While others lived online, he lived in momentum. He began waking at 4:45, not to hustle for revenge, but to take full control of his time. Cold showers, Stoic texts, strength training, not for aesthetics, but to break mental weakness. No one knew what he was doing. They assumed he disappeared. But the truth? He was becoming untouchable, because that's what silence does when you wield it with intention. It starves drama. It breaks the cycles. It terrifies people who feed on chaos. They start asking, why isn't he reacting? Why did he stop talking? What is he planning? But Victor wasn't planning revenge. He was building clarity. He was choosing peace over proving a point. And that's what most men never understand. The moment you stop responding is the moment they lose their grip on you. Silence teaches you who deserves your energy and who just wants to rent it. It teaches you that not every insult needs a reply. Not every rumor needs a rebuttal. Not every betrayal deserves your pain on display. Victor didn't win because he out-argued his enemies. He won because he made their opinions irrelevant. And that's your power too. When you stop chasing closure and start choosing evolution. When you stop trying to be heard and start learning to be still. That's when silence stops feeling like loss and starts becoming your leverage. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them fill in the blanks you'll never explain. Because one day, when your name shows up in places they thought you'd never reach, they'll hear your silence louder than any words you could have spoken. Victor Hale's silent rise. No one saw it coming. Victor Hale wasn't the kind of man who made noise. He didn't brag. He didn't chase press. He didn't build his company to be famous. He built it to be formidable. For 15 years, Hale Capital ran lean, smart, and quietly profitable. He co-founded it with a man he once called brother, Dean Morrow. They shook hands on ethics. They made decisions on handwritten agreements. They built trust before chasing growth. And for over a decade, it worked. Until one morning, it didn't. It started with silence. Victor noticed it first in the boardroom. Dean, once collaborative, now spoke in absolutes. Meetings were scheduled without him. Partnerships were inked without review. And worst of all, there were whispers, not loud ones, but the kind that grow roots. Then came the email, from legal, stripped of feeling, buried in corporate language, but clear in its cruelty. Victor Hale was removed as CEO, effective immediately. His stake had been diluted in a restructuring he never approved. The building he helped design, locked. His nameplate, gone by noon. His calendar, wiped clean. And just like that, everything he'd built was taken. Not by force, but by trust. He could have responded. He had receipts, contracts, emails, voice memos, all of it. He could have gone scorched earth, made Dean regret every step. But instead, Victor did the unthinkable. He went silent. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Victor didn't want revenge. He wanted clarity. And clarity doesn't grow in chaos. So he left the city, rented a modest home in the Smoky Mountains, turned off his phone, deleted every social app, refused every interview, ignored every call asking for his side of the story. He didn't run. He recalibrated. For the first 90 days, Victor didn't work. He woke up at 4:45 a.m., brewed strong black coffee, sat in silence, not meditating, but facing everything, every betrayal, every missed signal, every part of him that stayed loyal longer than he should have. He wrote, pages and pages, not about Dean, but about himself. Don't explain yourself, evaluate yourself. That became his rule, and what he found in those pages was a pattern. Victor had outsourced his gut. He let comfort become loyalty. He ignored tension because the partnership worked, and in that comfort, he lost his edge. So he built a new one. He didn't go back to the gym. He built a training protocol, 1 hour daily, rain or shine, cold showers, weighted carries. Sledgehammer swings on a tire behind his cabin. He didn't read business books. He read Epictetus, Seneca, Marcus. He underlined passages and wrote them on index cards. Each card taped to the cabin wall. Each one a reminder. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Epictetus. That quote hit hard. Because for the first time in years, Victor didn't care if people misunderstood him. He was training in the shadows. 6 months in, he reappeared, not in the city, but online. A simple post on LinkedIn, building again. Quietly. No hashtags, no backstory. What people didn't know, he had spent the last 60 days studying underserved markets in the Midwest. He'd mapped the gaps in private lending. He saw a weakness in community infrastructure funding, something big firms ignored, something small firms couldn't handle. So he moved to Indiana, rented a warehouse, started over. No investors, no noise, just one employee, a college intern, and a war chest of discipline. In year 1, Hale built 3 deals, each under $3 million for community redevelopment. In year 2, he hired 7 people, none of them from his old network, and by year 3, he landed a $28 million municipal contract. The same deal Dean's new firm failed to close. Victor didn't celebrate. He didn't post. He showed up at the site, walked the empty lot at 5:30 a.m. with coffee in hand, and whispered to himself, "This is what silence builds." Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water. Marcus Aurelius. That became Victor's identity. Not loud, not reactive, just unshakable. He no longer lived in the emotional volatility of betrayal. He lived in deliberate stillness. Every move was intentional, every relationship vetted, every project connected to real value, not optics. He stopped needing to be admired. He stopped needing to be understood. And that's when he became untouchable. In year 4, Victor bought a majority share in a logistics company, one that quietly serviced his new projects. No PR, no interviews, just control. Quiet, steady control. He wasn't back. He was reborn. Years later, someone from his past asked him, "Why didn't you fight back?" He smiled and said, "I didn't have time to fight. I was too busy rebuilding a life that couldn't be taken from me." That's Stoicism in action, not in theory, not in quotes, but in a man who refused to be owned by pain. Victor Hale didn't become powerful because he shouted louder. He became powerful because he no longer needed to speak. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. Victor became one. Through fire. Through silence. Through the kind of resilience that can't be faked. How to build an untouchable mindset. Most people think untouchable means unbothered, calm on the surface, cool under pressure. But that's just the end result. What they don't see is what it costs to get there. Victor Hale didn't become untouchable by accident. He became that way by design, through choices, through boundaries, through rituals no one applauded. And if you want to build that same kind of mindset, a mind no betrayal can break, no insult can shake, you need a framework. Here it is. 1. Burn the noise. Create inner space. Every powerful comeback starts with one hard decision. You must create distance from the chaos. That means deleting apps that drain your mind. That means saying no to people who ask for your energy but offer no clarity. That means removing yourself from conversations that begin with gossip and end in self-doubt. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Epictetus. You won't look normal doing this. People will say you're cold, distant, weird. Let them. You're not retreating. You're resetting. Because clarity doesn't grow in noise. And if your mind is filled with their voices, you'll never hear your own again. 2. Build the day. Own the mind. Your daily routine isn't about productivity, it's about identity. Every man who rebuilt himself started with his morning, because the morning is when the world is quiet, and the man who owns his morning can command his day. Victor started at 4:45 a.m. You don't have to, but you must begin before the noise begins. Here's a battle-tested rhythm. Wake early. No phone. Let your mind hear yourself first. Movement. Sweat out the anger, the fog, the weakness. Stillness. Reflect. Journal. Read the Stoics. Feed the soul. One priority. Set one non-negotiable goal for the day. Execute it before noon. You do this not to impress, but to build consistency, because your habits aren't just actions, they're armor. 3. Let silence speak. Most men ruin their comebacks by trying to narrate it. They want people to know, I'm working, I'm healing, I'm changing. But every word you speak about your transformation is energy you take away from the transformation itself. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. You don't need to update anyone. You don't need applause. You don't even need to defend your silence. Let the results do the talking. Let the room shift when you walk in, not because you posted your success, but because your presence became undeniable. That's the power of strategic silence. It's not retreat, it's pressure, building quietly until one day you arrive, undeniable. 4. Turn pain into precision. Pain is not your punishment, it's your blueprint. Every insult, every betrayal, every collapse is revealing something you trusted too much. A false friend, a weak belief, a version of you that was too available, too emotional, too unguarded. So ask yourself, what did this pain reveal? Where was I blind? What lesson is this trying to hammer into my soul? Then build around that answer. For Victor, the lesson was this: loyalty without discernment is a liability. So he rebuilt with filters, not feelings. Your pain has already cost you enough. Don't let it go to waste. 5. Define your code. Every untouchable man has one thing, an internal code, a standard he lives by, not because it's easy, but because it's non-negotiable. Write it, not for Instagram, not to share, but for you. I don't chase what disrespects me. I protect my peace at all costs. I never explain myself to manipulators. I outgrow what tried to break me. Whatever it is, it must be yours. And once written, it becomes law. Because in a world trying to pull you in 1,000 directions, a man without a code will fall for everything. But a man with one, he becomes immovable. 6. Rebuild in public. Reveal nothing. When Victor rebuilt his life, he did it in full view. But no one knew. Because power isn't about hiding, it's about mastering access. Let them see your success, but never your strategy. Let them feel your shift, but never explain your silence. That's how legacy is built, in full view, but completely unreadable. 7. Replace closure with peace. Last, and this is what traps most men, you must let go of the need for closure. You won't get the apology. You won't get the truth. You won't get the explanation that finally makes it all make sense. But what you can get is peace. And that's worth more. To be stoic is not to be emotionless. It's to remain unaffected by unnecessary emotion. You owe yourself that stillness, that freedom, that untouchable center. So don't wait for them to make it right. You make it right by moving forward. The real goal? Not just success, not just money, not even respect. The real goal is to become the kind of man who walks into chaos and doesn't flinch. To become the man who's seen betrayal, but still chooses clarity. To become the man who's been broken, but never again breached. That's what makes you untouchable. Not your title, not your bank account, but the mind you forged in silence, and the peace they can never take from you. Victor Hale didn't win because he had a louder voice. He won because he had a quieter mind. He didn't come back for applause. He came back with results. And when people looked for the old version of him, he was already gone. Because that's the mark of real transformation. You no longer fit into the places that once broke you. That's the Stoicism. Not to fight every battle, but to transcend them. To become so focused, so refined, so solid, that the chaos around you can't find a crack to get in. So if you're listening to this and you've been hurt, betrayed, dismissed, underestimated, good, because now you know, you don't need revenge. You need resolve. You don't need to clap back. You need to rise back, so high they need a telescope just to spot the fire you've become. And when that day comes, when you walk into a room they said you'd never enter again, you won't need to say a word. Your presence will speak louder than your pain ever could. Now I want to hear from you. What's your victor moment? What silence are you carrying? What are you building right now that no one sees? Drop it in the comments. Your story might be the thing another man needs to read to keep going. And if this message hit home, subscribe to the channel. Like this video if it gave you clarity. Share it with someone who's fighting a silent battle, someone who needs to hear that rising in silence is still rising. We don't chase attention here. We earn respect in silence. This is daily Stoic fuel, where inner power gets rebuilt, one lesson at a time.